Hello, everyone, and welcome back. As always, not as always, but it seems as always at this point. I am joined by Cage Warriors fighter, Mr. Sam Creasey. Sam, how's it going, sir? I'm all right, mate. Yeah, I'm all right. I'm all right. Right. Let's dive straight in. We've obviously had a brief conversation just before we press record. So I wanna start with we had a conversation, I don't know, a good few months ago now, after the Shadchak loss, and we talked about sort of what it was like going through that camp, going through that performance, going through the moments after that loss, and then sort of a brief conversation as to what happens to a fighter after a loss like that. And it's something that I think is really important. That fighters talk or are given the opportunity to talk about what it is to take a loss in MMA. One of the things that I think is beautiful about MMA in comparison to certain other combat sports is it's sort of hardwired into the fan base as an understanding that loss is inevitable. You're going to lose, and so obviously we had that conversation. But you go out against Mr. Lopoli and you manage to put yourself back into winning ways. Can you sort of give the other side of that opinion now, that other side of that sort of experience? What was it like going out to Italy, your first international fight in a while? What was it like in the fight? How did you feel your performance went from your perspective? I know that from your Instagram you weren't super pleased with your performance, but talk me through that process.
Um, so being not the champion anymore, that's one pressure relieved. Um, Going across to Italy and being the away fighter is something I've always thrived with. Really, from it felt like almost going back to right to the start of my amateur career. Uh, as a tiny gym with no coach, we had to get on the road. We had to go to all of these places further afield and go into, the enemy territory, if you like, into their backyards and experience being the underdog the whole time, the crowd against you. And I've always thrived off of that. And as I've got more experienced in my career, I've become like a veteran of Cage Warriors, if you like, and everybody kind of knows me there, especially in the UK. So it was kind of nice to go somewhere further afield and experience just all of the crowd really against me. I've not had that in a while. I quite enjoy that. I do quite enjoy that a lot. Um, but yeah, the performance in general was pretty poor from myself. But something that I did take away from the Shaj fight, and probably something I would say from the last, I'd say 2 years of fighting, if you like. Um, I got into a habit um, of enjoying fighting too much. Um, the more experienced I've got, the more comfortable I've got in the cage, the less focus I've had upon winning, and on occasions just letting myself get carried away with a dogfight, if you like, swinging for the fences, my feet barely moving, and forgetting one of the main reasons I became one of the top ranked fighters in the UK. Um, because I came from nothing, I've always been well rounded. I've not been the guy who's just going to stand in the middle and just swing for the fences. I've been the guy who's going to pick up the takedowns, get get it to the ground, grapple a bit from there, pick up a submission, hit you on the feet as well. But I'd say in the last couple of years, I kind of just came away from that a little bit too much, and just I was enjoying myself too much, and there are consequences to that, unfortunately.
Sure. So I think I'd like to develop on two things that you've said there. The first one, if we can just briefly go back a couple of sentences, and you said, I'm not the champion anymore. And so that was one pressure relieved. What does that mean?
um, it's a pressure that's not real, if you like. Yeah, it's all internally built by yourself and your brain and your anxieties. And anytime kind of your brain gets a chance to wonder, it can start to kind of build up these external worries that are not they're not real. They're not real because it's just another fight. It is just another fight. Every single one is just another fight, whether you are the champion or not. But your brain will turn it often into something that it really isn't, and make it into a far greater thing.
So as you sign a fight, whether that's against a Shajak or otherwise, you have that gold belt technically wrapped around your waist. Um, do you cognizantly go into training thinking I must train differently because I am the champion? Does it envelope your whole training camp? Is it in the back of your mind always, or is this something that creeps in and out as the fight goes on?
That has been something that has kind of developed for me over the years, and that, uh, for example, the first time I thought or I heard I was going to fight for the Cage Warriors title years ago, I'd convinced myself that, okay, well, you must diet down because you've never made 125 pounds on the dot before, and this fight is going to be at that. Okay, you're going to have to diet down twice as hard now. Okay, right, you're fighting 5 rounds for the first time. Great, you need to be hitting the bag for 10 rounds. And these are the kind of the things that I was going through as an inexperienced guy trying to kind of figure it out without asking too many questions, if you like, um, which had served me pretty well uh, in the first part of my career. But with each kind of each mistake that I've made, I've learned some more, got some more experience from it, and then taken that away and improved. Improved my skills, my preparation, and then what I can teach the next wave coming through so they don't make these same mistakes that I did.
So I'll then open the second question, and that's the the lifelong martial artist, the the man that calls himself Samurai Creasey. How does he get to a position where he enjoys fighting too much?
Hmm. I think it is the fact that I didn't start martial arts until late in my in my early 20s, because I didn't do that. I've not actually experienced that much real fighting competition. Although, like on paper, for an MMA guy, I'm, I'm quite experienced. Reality is, like, for a lot of guys as well, who are just coming into a sport at this stage of their life, it takes a long time to be really truly comfortable and relaxed in there, and to be honest about that. Everybody can talk after the fight, but to be so comfortable in there takes a lot of experience, a lot of time in the cage, I feel, or has for me anyway, at least. um and for me now, it's just getting that balance. Okay, I still want to enjoy the fight. I don't want to back to go back to the enjoyment of just having a war, if you like, you know because I just had some guys fighting this weekend. I, and I told them, you know, don't enjoy the fight, win the fight. Yeah, just win the fight. Get in there, do your thing, do everything that you do in the gym every day, but don't get carried away. Don't let your ego, you know, become a little bit too big for itself. Yeah, we can all get caught. Let's go in there, get a victory, and take that home to your friends and your family.
What does it mean when you say you want to continue to enjoy the fight, but you don't want to enjoy the war? Can you explain a little bit about what exactly does it mean to enjoy a fight? And equally, what exactly does it mean to enjoy a war? Because I think to the layman or somebody that's never taken a shot, never given a shot, there is a very it's very difficult to sort of contextualize and give a definition, a tangible definition to the elixir of being in that sort of situation. So can you attempt to both describe to the layman what you mean by one, enjoying a fight generally, right? What does that mean? But also enjoying the war a little too much.
So the enjoyment of the fight, I guess, is the ability to be comfortable enough in there to express your ability. You know, express your martial arts skills, whatever they may be. Because you know, a lot of guys they will fight, and they never really get a chance to express themselves because they can't ever find that comfort in the cage, if you like, because it's not comfortable. It's a lot of anxiety, it's a lot of adrenaline, and it's a fight or flight moment for a lot of people. Um, that's what I would say is the enjoyment factor, if you like, to see yourself throwing those same shots in the same kind of manner you have been practicing in the gym. That's joyful to see that comfort there rather than that anxiety. And you know you're throwing with such tenseness and throwing stuff that's you perhaps have never thrown before in that manner, and it's because you're not comfortable enough in the fight. To enjoy the war is perhaps goes back to what I would be capable of if I had nothing else, if you like. When you break me back down to my basic tools, it is the ability to stand on the spot and swing and have a real slugfest and enjoy every last shot that I take and every last shot that I give. Um, that is something that is, um, I guess, built within me. Um, that I've always enjoyed that kind of fight, and I've had to spend a long time trying to move myself away from that. um, Especially, obviously, in the gym when I was younger. Um, that would that would be one of my favourite spars, if you like. Um, so I've tried and spent a long time trying to learn how to utilize distance better. Um, Time with guys who make my footwork look so poor that I must learn how to use footwork appropriately. Um, and then now I'm so comfortable in the cage, it's not getting carried away, where I'm going from good movement, nice, strict, technical fights where I'm in the ascendancy and doing the things that we've discussed, to seeing an opportunity to to get involved in a slugfest in the pocket, if you like. Um, there were a couple of occasions in the fight when in the last fight, sorry, where we both almost did start getting going, and I felt myself had to just okay, hold up, this is this is not what we discussed. It's time to win the fight and win it decisively, cleverly, utilize all of our skills, not get carried away.
So I think that I have one question and then sort of a subsidiary, and that's that. Do you think, in your experience, that I mean, it sounds from a mental capacity actually far easier to just commit to the war because you can literally just stand there. You're not necessarily thinking with a cerebral brain. You're thinking entirely with an animalistic brain, and it's very reactionary. And you know, you are the sum of your pieces. right? You are the sum of yourself, and you stand in the pocket and you trade, and whoever falls falls. Um, do you think that there's an element that the enjoyment of that not just comes from the animalistic pleasures of it, but also because there's sort of a dissolving of anxiety because it's so present and you're handing off any anxiety, you're handing off any thought of the fight, and you're purely stripping back and you're there as present as possible because you're giving and taking shots immediately.
Yes, and I feel the far more technical fight requires much more discipline, and um, discipline a little bit will require to you to be not so comfortable, if you like. You're going to be far more cautious and aware of the dangers. Um, I've had some moments in these last couple of fights where I found myself giggling and smiling and well aware that I can hear my corner. I can hear what they're telling me, and my brain or my internal voice is telling me, away with that, away with those safe thoughts, straight into the battle we go, if you like. Um, and it's not a smart way to fight. It's entertaining, certainly entertaining for everybody, but uh, it's just a little bit okay. Maybe maturity, I guess, as I'm seeing some of the people, close to me, how they feel afterwards. It's not easy to watch someone you love in that kind of position. Um, whether they win or lose, it's like it's heart um, heart stopping, if you like, as you're watching the fight. Um, I've got to be aware of that, and I've got to be more mindful of my career. I'm in a good position still. I feel quite possibly, had my record not be as good as it was, and I've been at the top of the rankings for a very long time on the cusp of the UFC. I'd probably be involved in a lot more of these wars than I'd like to say. Um, but it's something I've just got to be observant of.
Yeah, and I think we'll go to the innovation point now because I think it sort of laces in quite nicely, and that's that you make a really interesting point, and the interesting point is that you started late and you effectively came from nothing. In the same vein that most people come from nothing, right? They're gonna start something and build their way into something. But the fact that you started late sort of forced you to not specialize and forced you to be abreast of everything that was available to you at any given time. So how have you stayed on the cusp of the UK and European rankings in the way that you have? How have you, over the 2 or 3 eras of UK and European MMA that you've competed in, how have you managed to stay at the brink of all of the cutting edge metas?
Um, I feel my work ethic is one thing that has helped me and hindered me at the same time. If you like, uh, as an amateur, no massive set of coaching. It was getting the gym. Don't leave the gym until they have to drag you out, sort of thing. And that way, that gave me the best footing to become the most well-rounded martial artist I possibly could be. I've been in the gym so many hours, grappling, sparring, wrestling, everything you can possibly think of. Um, and then that gave me a great start for my pro career, because a lot of the guys that I fought initially were specialists, if you like, and in those on those occasions when I'd be fighting those guys, if they couldn't put me in their favored area, I could feel them. Maybe I'm lying to myself, but it felt like they were mentally breaking a little every time. For every second that went on and they couldn't put me in the position that they needed to, it felt like I'd had their number a little bit, and that gave me the confidence to be to be the well-rounded fighter that I am today. Um, Again, like this, when as I've been training, as I've been fighting, we've been experiencing new styles all the time, and outside of the gym, the same thing. So sparring with different guys all the time. Um, I've spoken before about when I met Vaughan, and I went to spar with him, and my style was completely different before I sparred with him. And when you've been against somebody you can't physically touch, the you're somewhat lost. And so I needed to then evolve, and I feel like I evolved my footwork a lot then. Um, some things have continually progressed with myself. Um, I've always had the ability to fight, if you like, but not necessarily the skills to fight in every area. So whilst whilst my career's been progressing, we've just been adding a lot to the arsenal in the kicks, the knees, the clinch areas. Um, Taking a lot of time with Thai coaches, wrestling coaches to kind of see what works better for me, works better for my style of takedowns, my style of shots, and that. Um, and then again, it's sparring with a lot of the new guys coming through and seeing how they move slightly different. Um, Guys from all different kinds of martial arts backgrounds, like Taekwondo guys, the Muay Thai guys, boxers. It's given me a really good kind of footing to always be constantly have the ability to change my style mid fight, if you like. So, you know, you, somebody's outboxing me on the feet, I can switch and I can go kick the legs or take them down, and that has always kind of like been something I've had in the back of my mind, that I don't have a style. I've always got this that I can fall back on. I can go here if he's better than me here. I can go here if I'm worried about this. And that's what I've tried to teach like the new guys coming through. You can't like box yourself into I'm a specialist of this. You're not, because otherwise go and do that. You're an MMA fighter. You have to be well rounded. You have to do everything.
I have a bold prediction, and I'd be interested in what your thoughts are. The bold prediction is that I think MMA has already, and within the next, I don't know, 10 to 15 years or so, will swallow almost all of the other combat styles. I do feel like boxing in some way has such a tradition that it will likely be around kind of forever, right? And I'm sure maybe in some areas of the world, like a Thailand, you're going to find Thai fights continuing sort of forever. And there will be sport grappling, I think. But apart from that, I struggle to see that there won't be an understanding that the amalgamation of those individualistic sports are seen as so inefficient in comparison to their evolved brother, which is MMA. Because you mentioned there, "Oh, well, if somebody's outstriking me on the feet, well, I can go to kicks." Well, what variation of kicks? I don't think we're gonna be saying, "Oh, well, he's gonna go and adopt a kickboxing style or a more of a TKD style, or now he switched his stance to a Thai style." I feel like instead, what's going to happen is it will be MMA striking, and that will just whether that's called MMA striking, whether that's called striking, whatever, right? In the same vein as in the clinch realms, like, there's no such thing really as a Thai clinch anymore because takedowns are available. There's no such thing as like a sort of a Greco style clinch either because elbows are available and shoulder strikes are available and knees are available. And so I feel in all of the realms, MMA is evolving to be the purest, um, form, the purest expression of a multitude of different styles, and in the future, people's style will be purely an expression of who they are rather than an expression of sort of a more what we'd call a traditional style. Your thoughts, please, sir.
No, I agree. I mean, I see it happening already, if you like. I think um, Rory McDonald was a great example of that. It's a shame the way his career has kind of petered out quite quickly. I feel like he was probably in too many wars too young, but he did start very young, and he was the first real MMA fighter for me with no background anywhere else. He was the guy who, where are you going to put him? You put his back, he armbars. He's on top of you. He's elbowing you in the face. He's comfortable on the feet. He's comfortable wrestling. This is the new wave coming through. I think I was lucky to come into the sport with no background, if you like, meaning I had no preference for where the fight ended up. It would just be, whatever I could get hold of, or wherever I felt most comfortable. Uh, Eventually, I think that's the biggest thing we do in MMA striking now, and a lot of it is okay that you can't kick in this manner because this is a traditional style kick and somebody's going to grab your leg, they're going to take you down. I know that's a technically perfect kick, but it's not when there's a big takedown involved. It's not when you can grab the legs. It's not when you can get round to the back, and it changes the dynamics for a lot of the techniques that have been used, and that it's just as everything evolves, so will the striking, or so will the well-roundedness of the sport, if you like.
I think we will stop using the word well-rounded too, because the specialism is going to be MMA, but the dichotomy will be that the specialism of MMA means that you are a generalist in the traditional arts, but eventually the lexicon will change, and you'll just have MMA styles, right? Like you may get a John Jones who opts to move his feet in a specific way, right? Or throw his shots in a specific way, or the shot selection he chooses might be a specific way because that's just who he is, right? In the same vein, you might get a Sam Creasey that looks to move his feet a different way, or arch his body in a certain way, or the choice of kicks, or the choice of takedown, or the whatever it is, the choice of sequence when he hits the mat is going to be different because that's just who he is, right? And so I think that yeah, we are going to and I think it will start, as with all things, these things oscillate all the time. But I think we will disband of the word specialist for a while in mixed martial arts. And then of course there will be individual people that have a propensity for certain skills over certain other skills, right? If we look at Islam Makhachev, I think he's a perfect example, is comfortable everywhere but has a real propensity. He wants to grapple. And so I think that those people who make a self-expression choice to develop a certain area and innovate in a certain area will really start to push the sport forward in its own merits, in its own styles. Um, if we can switch slightly to we talked a little bit in the DMs, and you'd mentioned that you'd had a really tough camp. Talking of evolving as a fighter, do you want to talk me through what happened in this camp?
So the camp started off well enough in that I came in a decent shape fitness wise. Um, when the got signed. I think probably maybe a few days later, I had my first sparring session of the camp, technically, and injured my elbow really badly, and it's still injured now. um, that was an issue in the fight that I couldn't really. So I couldn't throw a straight punch. I can throw a hook. I can throw an overhand ish, but there's a lot of pressure on all the ligaments and the tendons in and around the elbow, and that meant I would come in on a left arm underhook, put him against the fence. He'd have wrist control on the right arm, and we'd battle from this very poor position for quite a while. Whereas normally I would have been very confident that I'd have taken the body, dragged him down, or shot in on the double leg, picked him up and put him on his bum. That felt like perhaps playing it safe. I felt like there was not enough strength in my arm, in and around the elbow, trying to break his grip every time. That was going to cause me a lot of issues. So I kind of had to do what I did there. And then in the first round, we clashed knees off of I think kicking at similar times, and I felt the inside of my left knee give a nice big twang, and put my foot down. I was like, okay, well, I can still move, but that is going to hurt tomorrow. So I think the physio says I've got a strain in my MCL, but it's very uncomfortable at the minute. I can't kneel, can't grapple, can't do anything really on that leg. So they are things that everybody deals with in a fight. But I got the win, which is what was the most important thing, and I managed to do so in a compromised state, which gives me confidence that the next person hopefully will look at that last performance and think, wow, I could smash this guy. And you know, if I'm lucky, I might be healthy for this next one.
So I I think actually this aids to your I came in without any sort of adherence to a traditional martial art and came in as a blank slate because you just talked us through a sequence there of instead of going to your more preferred grappling sequences, you're going to stick on a heavy underhook and you're going to be fighting for wrist control. He's going to be fighting for wrist control, and you're going to be landing, whatever you can land, a body shot, maybe an upward shot, maybe a knee to the thigh, whatever it is. You're just landing whatever you can land, and you're emanating the sort of rhetoric that you give to your own fighters, which is you could have said, "Ah, fuck it. My elbow's gone anyway. I might as well just carry on throwing it because it's gone anyway." And then we leave the fight, and maybe you get the win, maybe you don't because you've damaged yourself further. And you put yourself back an extra 6, 8, 12, 15, 16 weeks, whatever it is. You've gone in and you've won the fight. You've not gone in and fought the fight, you know? And I think there's an element here, and maybe we dive into this because I know we're short on time, but there's an element here of a question as to whether MMA is a sport at all, right? Because even in this conversation, you oscillate between the word fight and the word contest, right? You say the word sport, but then you say, "Yeah, but I just fucking love the fight. Like, I just fucking what can I say? Like, I just what do you want me to do? Like, I just love the fight." And it seems like, in a fighter who at the level that you compete at is an elite level fighter, even you're questioning, right? Like, is this because if it's a sporting contest, you go in there to win every time, like, every single time. And there's never a thought of, "Let me turn this into something else." Very rarely do you see a football player pick up a ball and smash the ball into somebody's face. Very rarely. Their sole purpose is to pick the ball up and put it in the back of the net on the other side. When you look at an ice hockey player, an NFL player, whatever it is, their intentions, for the most part, are solely sporting. I'm just not sure we can say that that's the same for MMA, right? I just don't know we can.
No, I mean, so there are always two sides to the coin, right? And your brain is sometimes your biggest friend and your biggest enemy at the same time. So the intelligent fighter in me always considers it a contest, and it is a contest that I'm going to win. The unfortunate part is, as we get more excited and we take a shot, and it was a good shot, and we're not phased, we suddenly start to enjoy that a little bit too much, and then it becomes a fight. The thing you don't want to make it is a fight. I want to win this as a contest and put you in the safest, like, it's very difficult for me to speak on it myself, if you like, because I've made many mistakes. But when I speak to my guys, it's get to this position. Why? Because that's the safest position. Get to this position. Why? Because that's the position where he cannot hit you and you can punch him in the face all you like. You know, it's always victory first, the safest possible way to get there. And on occasion, it has been for myself, but I sometimes get caught up in the excitement, in the adrenaline, in the entertainment, and it's enjoyable up until the moment that it's not. And and then everything comes crashing back down to earth, and you say, why did you allow yourself to be drawn into the fight? Yeah, I think of MMA as the intelligent martial art, if you like. If I'm going to be the toughest man in the world, I'll probably go and do Muay Thai and stand in front of somebody else and bang and elbow and knee and not take a step backwards because I'm the toughest man in the world. MMA is not like that. You punch me in the face enough, quick, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm going to take you down. you know, it's it's the same argument I have with how disheartening boxing must be when you're boxing Floyd Mayweather. How can you be 8 rounds deep? You've not landed a punch. You spend every single day of your life boxing, and you cannot land a punch on this man. What do you do next? What do you do next? But in MMA, you have the variety, you have the options there, and I feel like it's the intelligent fighters are the ones who are going to last the longest in this sport as it is, because they will know when to switch. Yeah, they might favor the striking even, but they'll know when now's not the best time. Let's bring it down to earth. Let's slow things down just a touch. And I think that's something I'm still learning that every day, and I'm trying to pass that on to the next generation as well, because they're all young, they're excited, they want to go out and have a war. No, you don't. Please don't go and have a war. Go in there, take a fine, swift victory, go home to see your family.
I mean, I think there's an element where having a war is necessary to know that you've been through one, and even from a media member's perspective, there's a checklist, right? When we're looking at a fighter and we're trying to figure out what the fighter's ceiling and the fighter's floor is, one of the things we're looking for is, can they take a shot? You know? Because as you reach the upper echelons of MMA, where the skill gaps are so marginal, a lot of it comes down to toughness, a lot of it comes down to grit, a lot of it comes down to who's able to take more punishment than the other. Like, the fight that I think of most recently is Henry Cejudo versus Aljamain Sterling. The skill gap was so marginal, and it just came down to who could take the better shots and who could land the better shots, obviously, right? Obviously. And so there's an element of war, attritional war in there. Now, of course, if you're in Henry Cejudo's camp, you say, well, the open cage wrestling is working really well, so let's try and do more of that. But saying try and do more of that is one thing. Asking him to do that against one of the elite fighters in the world is an entirely different thing. But I just want to translate slightly to, you mentioned bring things back down to earth. What's left for you? in MMA?
Um, so for right now, I'm just not trying to take a look too far ahead, if you like. It's a book that's not finished being written yet, if you like. I've got quite a few pages more to go, hopefully. You know, touch wood, nothing happens. But I feel good. I feel good. I don't feel like my abilities are diminishing. I feel strong, healthy, fast, fit. Um, and I see, like, I keep looking ahead. I've always been on the cusp of the UFC. I'd love the opportunity to get there, and I just try to take one fight at a time. See who's, a, see who's in front of me. See, that was a young, hungry fighter, and it gives me confidence, I guess, that I'm, I don't feel like I've taken a backward step at any point really in my career, if you like, on in terms of my improvements that I'm making. Competition is competition, especially with the little gloves and that. Anything can happen, but the story's just it's not finished yet.
I mean, from a fan perspective, that's fantastic to hear, right? But has there been conversations between you and Cage Warriors as to whether the Shadchak rematch is going to happen? What are Cage Warriors saying about your current situation?
Oh, they've been very supportive. Um, I haven't pushed too much for the rematch. I perhaps could have. I feel like it was a very close fight, and I feel like I was probably winning that fight from the feedback from other people as much as my own thoughts on how the contest was going. But there's another person in line first, and he's got a legitimate shout for that, So I'm going to see how that plays out. See how the rest of the division plays out. I mean, there's some good fighters coming now. Um, the little Brazilian guy. There's Lona from GB Top Team. There's a um, Gerardo. He just beat the other Italian kid. There's a lot of good fighters in the division, so it's looking really exciting in a minute. Um, but for myself, I'm just going to take it one fight at a time. I've always been on the cusp of either the title or fighting the the young, hungry fighters who won it, and then beating those guys. So we shall see.
Well, look, I know that we're short on time. There's a ton of stuff that I didn't get to ask, but we'll do that another time. Um, As always, I want to thank you so much for your time. It's always a pleasure talking to you. It's always a pleasure hearing your thoughts. And as and when the next fight gets announced, I'd love to have another conversation. Before you go, feel free to shout out any sponsors, any gyms, any teams, anyone that you want to. The floor is yours, sir.
No, absolutely. Uh, the pleasure is mine. I'm very grateful for the platform again, and I like speaking to you. um, just a shout out all my teams and that. I know, like, I'm a bunch of just too many of them, if you like. All my training partners, my sponsors, and that. You're all amazing. You help me so much, and my family. Anybody who's supported me at all, and in fact, anybody who's not supported me, I'm still sending you love.
Beautiful. Thank you very much, sir.